wanted to call this talk How Louis C.K. Broke My Heart, because I'm a huge Louis C.K. fan. I think some of the most important feminist scenes in the history of television were made by Louis. Just go on YouTube and click, and so did the fat lady. That's monumental. So did the fat. That's 7 minutes of masterpiece. And then when you hear about it, you're like, why? Because when I think about the Harvey Weinstein, I can see that. I have this image of a stereotypical, disgusting man of entitlement who go and grab women and think they own the world. And a man like Dustin Hoffman is not a part of my stereotype or the image I have in mind. Or a man like Louis C.K. And it broke my heart. And after being broken hearted, I said, okay, one needs to acknowledge. Of course, there is a spectrum, and I'm not comparing people who went through life, raping and molesting people, in power relations, to someone who might have been insensitive, but nevertheless, they hurt somebody. And we should think about it. And I started thinking about, are we all, and I speak about my gender, are we all, as men, potential predators, potential sexual offenders? And I think we are. And I think it's pretty much a question of socialization, okay? Because I'll give you another example. If you socialize me and raise me into believing that I am better than others because they're black, or because they're female, or because they're LGBTQ, or because they are migrants or refugees, or I'm an Israeli Jew, so let's say they're Palestinian, okay? If you raise me to believe in that, I will have the capacity of harming them or objectifying them. Like, I went to military, I did 3 years in a combat unit, okay? So when I was 18, I believed I was defending my country. I had no sense of maybe we are no longer the victim, or maybe we are committing crimes against humanity in Gaza. I had no sense of that. I was a good citizen. I was the salt of the earth, taking part in a combat unit, okay? And I have the capacity of harming people if I'm not aware of that, if I was brought up to believe that I'm just a good citizen defending my country. Okay? So, if you raise me up into believing that I am entitled, and every alpha male, and I'm going to break down what an alpha male is, but every alpha male feels entitled, and even non-alpha, beta, gamma, theta, Q, entitled of female and female sexuality, I might believe that it is okay. That's what Hannah Arendt told us. One should read Hannah Arendt. And that's what history has taught us. So maybe we should, okay, let's say that we understand porn and how it is harmful, and we have science and we have research. Okay, and now what? Okay, so people will know. What do we do next? Because when we say what's wrong, it's not enough. You have to show a positive, constructive alternative. Okay, porn is, so what do I do now? And I think we need to address, because basically I don't want to teach girls not to go to the party, or not to drink, or not to have a cleavage, or how to not get raped. I want to teach boys and men not to rape. I want to teach boys and men not to harass. Let's just not teach you how to not be harassed. Let's teach men how to not harass women and hurt other men, okay? And then you just think about it. And we grow up with all this imagery around us, and it's not only a discourse of images, which is super important. It's a discourse of real life. I mean, like Bob Jensen, which is a brilliant mind, which is speaking in this conference. You should check out and see where he's speaking. He always talks about, like, people say about ethical porn, or this porn, or that porn, but it's like tactics, what is presented or shown. Nobody asks, why is it presented, and why is it commodified? Why is it there to be, on the larger prisma, strategically speaking? And you can be, let's just say, no matter what you do as a woman, and I'm your peer or your male colleague, I'm making more money than you are, regardless of what you do or where we are, unless you're selling your sexuality. If you sell your sexuality, you're making more than your male peer. Why is that? Why is the system built this way? So the strategic question should be, what do we perpetuate, and what really allows us to think so and to hurt women or to commodify them? And I think I said it last time, because I speak to everybody, and peace is made with enemies, not with friends. And so this is a Mormon-based conference, and I'm a left-wing person, so there's a gap that I need to overcome, okay? And the thing is that regardless of what you think about your political stance, some things are not open for discussion. Okay? And the reality of 1 out of 1 being sexually harassed, not once, a lot of time, and 1 out of 3 or 4 being sexually assaulted, and 1 out of 5 or 6 being raped. Yes, 1 out of 9 or 10 men was sexually also offended or hurt. We don't talk about it, but we came, but vast majority of the time we were hurt by other men as well. So it's like for every 12 or 1300 cases, you have a babysitter molesting the child or a mother or a teacher. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. But vast majority of the time, regardless if you're a male or female, if you were hurt sexually, it was made by a man. So we need to address men and men accountability about stuff, okay? And then I think about the way we socialize kids. And I had this I called it ELS, the ELS Foundation. You need to have a foundation. Israel is so super small, it's like, there's this guy, Ran, that's the dude, bring him in. So I'm like doing more talks than a day. I'm doing like 420, 30 talks a given year. Last year it was less because I had a second child and I spent like 4 months on parental leave. So I was not working because I was changing diapers. That's what I do. That's what I do. I'm a super good father, like comparing to straight guys. I think comparing to women, I'm like mediocre as a parent. Comparing to gay guys, I'm almost as good as they are. Comparing to a straight guy, I'm outstanding. I'm fabulous. Okay? One needs to think about growing a heterosexual kid. Is it such a good idea? So I speak to everybody who's willing to converse, and I'll give you an example because I do believe in not using euphemisms. And then I go and I want to speak about the early ages, okay? The youngest age, like what we speak about, is 9, 10, 11-year-olds, which is a nag to work with. I like kids, but it's okay. Some of you don't laugh because if you don't laugh or don't smile, it's because you haven't been a parent yet. So I want to say 2 things about that. It's not for the protocol, but it's between us because you made all the way and I became. You don't have to have kids in order to be happy. You can live without. I have 2 kids. You can live without having children and have a fulfilling, super happy life. Okay? You don't have to do that. That's an option. There's a trade-off. You don't need that in order to be happy. Okay? Your life will not be empty or missing anything. It will be cool. Okay? If you do choose to have kids, just think about that. You are signing in that you are willing to be a contract worker in the lowest level for the rest of your life with not an option of ever being promoted or having a union or having a gift card, nothing at all. That's what's going to happen. And if you do decide to have a kid and you stay with them at home, and it's very photogenic, do not believe that. All those awful parents and people, shooting themselves on Instagram. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm the happiest when I'm baking, homemade bread with my kids. I'm so happy. No, you're not. You haven't had sex in a while, haven't you? Not one with a clitoral arousal, at least. No, you're not happy. And when you wake up in 3 a.m. and you want to throw your kid outside of the window, because the default emotion, when you're a parent, your default emotion will be feeling guilty. You're guilty about everything. So if you want to throw your kid outside of the window, it doesn't make you a bad parent. You're normal. It's okay. Do not feel guilty. If you do act upon this emotion, you could say that you're crossing the line and you are not a good parent anymore, okay? But as long as you just feel that you want to choke your child, but you're not acting upon that, you're fine. Do not feel guilty. You're doing great. It's okay. But nobody wants to post on Facebook or Instagram the way they look at 3 or 4 in the morning after they've waken up for the gazillionth time to their kids. It's just, okay? Nobody shows you that. Do not believe all those photogenic, with the filter thing. Oh, we're so happy. She just did her gel nail polish and her hair done. She's lying, okay? So nevertheless, some of us chose to have kids, and now the easy part is to have kids. Like the more complicated one is to raise them in order not to be douchebags. So I'm meaning kids. Sorry for that. So, but I want to raise boys not to be douchebags. I think it's a noble cause to raise boys not to be douchebags, but see women as equal and make them feel, safe and happy and valued. So I'm meeting kids. And when they bring me in, it's really interesting because when some campus activity here in the States is bringing me to challenge porn culture on campus, everybody's coming. That's fun. Somebody's speaking about porn. And I'm very descriptive and it's liberal and I'm sex positive. I do not teach abstinence. I know I respect people who do. I don't think it's the right way. I believe in like experimenting and being diverse and having a sexual character, and I think that's fine. That's what I feel. Okay? I think we all have an individual personality. And we do understand that we are all a very each unique snowflake, and each and every one of us is different. So the same way that our personality is different, our sexual character is different. If I would say to you that there's certain things like sexual compatibility, like you can understand that it's going to be hard for us to share our lives together if we don't agree about fracking, which we don't, because I don't think it's cool to do fracking in indigenous reservoir, or I don't think global warming is a fiction. I think it's really happening. Or if I want to vote for Bernie, you want to vote for Trump. So it's going to be hard for us to be a couple. So you can acknowledge that. So if there's a huge difference between us, in our mindset or our point of view, but there is also a compatibility in our sexual character, sexual needs. But we need to acknowledge that there's a sexual gap between people, and we were brought up to believe that it's not just about love. Love is not enough. It's about communication. It's about being compatible. You need to experiment. You need to do stuff, okay? I work with Muslim people, with Orthodox Jews, that people who teach abstinence, which is okay, but I work with everybody. But I'll give you just an example. Back home, all the Orthodox Jews who are teaching abstinence, they're not even touching each other, okay? So there was a thesis work done by a brave woman called Michal Prince. You don't need to pronounce that because it's in Hebrew and it's hard to pronounce. But she's a brave and brilliant woman, and she's an Orthodox Jew, and she grew up, she was raised into not even touching, holding the hand of her loved one. And then on her wedding night, she's supposed to have intercourse because that's the definition of them being husband and wife. And moving from not holding the hand that's traumatic. And she said, I cannot be the only person traumatized by that. So she did her thesis in women and gender studies, and she started interviewing other women who came from her community anonymously. She did this quantitative research. She did interviews, hours and hours. And she saw that it's pretty much the same. So and she said, okay, maybe we need to think about it differently. Maybe if we keep abstinent, but then we get married, but maybe intercourse does not define us, and we can start unraveling who we are sexually in a more moderated grade. But you need to do something. You cannot teach people not to do anything and then have intercourse on the wedding night. No, it's like it's an emotional, physical. It's not even a jet lag. It's crossing a galaxy. It's a shock. It's not even it's awful. So I don't believe in that. But I'm meeting everybody. But let's speak about young kids for a second. Young kids are pretty much all over the place the same, and they invite me to speak, and they don't want to bring me in because it's that guy who speaks about porn, and you never know what he's going to say in real time, and I don't know. But it's a funny thing. Business-wise, I have something like almost 100% of returning clients. I just told it to a Canadian friend of mine who taught me what to do with a tie. It's the first time I never had a tie. I never worn a tie. But I wanted to just be a bit more similar to you guys. So I did that. Someone in Minnesota gave me a tie. I just came from someone who supports me gave me a tie. I said, I know what to do. He said, enough with you, just look it up on YouTube. There has to be some video that will show you how to tie a tie. And then I met some Canadian friends and I told them, okay, so you're all with suits, and I said, show me how to do that. I did the easy one. I didn't do the more complicated stuff that the senator asked me to. I did it, but it's okay. And it's pink, which is nice. Because you don't see, but my daughter nail polished we did pink nail polish. It's almost done, because we don't do gel, we do just, but so it's compatible, and I hope you appreciate it. So anyway, I'm coming to speak to kids, but they bring me in because if somebody is calling me, and they can be a battalion commander in military forces, or some VP of HR in some high-tech corporate, or a principal, or whomever. If they're calling me, shit has hit the fence. Something happened and exploded, okay? There was a rape, a slut-shaming case, a porn issue. They are slammed with their back to the wall, and they have to do something, because proactively they don't want to do anything. Because in our community, I see what you mean. We see all the data, but my family, in our community, in our school, it's not different. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same, okay? It's the same. So they bring me in, and I'm meeting young kids. I'm saying, and the kids are like anxious because they were told that some outside speaker is going to come and speak to them about porn or whatever they call it, sex education and whatnot. And I said, and I'm entering, and I said, no, just don't, hi, we're not speaking about anything. No need to raise your hand. And kids are happy. I don't support, regime of. I think it was Foucault that says that the childhood is like the most oppressed times of our life, or the most governed or controlled times of our life, because you just tell them what to do and not to do all the time. And you should stop governing other people because they are also civilians, just the way we are. We lie to ourselves that we are preventing them from many, many rights, because we are allegedly defending them. But they are civilians, that's the way we are, and they have their rights. So I'm just, no need to raise your hand, no need to be polite, and I'm just entering and saying, kids, I'm going to draw 3 columns on the blackboard. That's like money on the floor. It works every time, okay? And every time I'm going to write a word, and each word that I write, I want you to just shout out what comes to your mind. No need, no order, no nothing. Just shout it out, and I'll write it the way you speak. No need to be polite. And I'm writing a man. There are 3 columns. In the first column, I'm writing down a man. And they said, he's strong, he's there, he's fierce, he's brave, he's not afraid. If he's like an alpha male will be one who is, it's all connected to force. Like if you have physical force, okay? If you're an athlete, if you're a fighter, if you're not afraid of fighting, if you're violent or aggressive, there is a recognition of you. Your masculinity is undisputed. The second I punch another boy, they might punish me, I might be chewed, but my masculinity is undisputed. Right. Okay? Physical violence is the fastest way that kids can manifest their masculinity. So if I'm strong physically and I'm aggressive or violent, it's okay. If I have, like one kid will say he dates a lot, he's a womanizer, or some sort of, one brave, the class's clown will say something. So, but they do find a connection between having many women, having a sexual force over women, into being among the alpha male. And if you make money, he works hard, you make money. If you make money, you can be a total geek. You can be a Zuckerberg or a Bill Gates or whomever. And you're among the alpha male. It's okay. You can be a Jeff Bezos. You're among the alpha male because even though you're a geek because you made gazillions, tons of money. But masculinity is connected with force. It's either sexual force over women or financial power or physical power. So they say all these words and I'm writing them down. And then I'm asking, what did it take to be a woman? And they said, she's pretty, she's nice, she's sweet, she's doing that. And it's basically either a depiction of a stay-home mom or a Disney princess. The pre-Moana era, okay? Like someone who's sweet and like helpless, waiting in the tower for like 100 years for some man to save her, okay? Some helpless, gentle, fragile creature, or a stay-home mom. She cooks for you, she cares, she drives you with her unnecessary polluting SUV to your soccer practice and back from the soccer practice. But more or less, that's the depiction, okay? Nobody thinks about Sheryl Sandberg. Nobody thinks about Angela Merkel. It's not connected with anything of being competent. Young kids, when you ask them about femininity or what does it take to be, what makes a woman, they don't think about competence. They don't think about being out there. They don't think about leadership. They don't think about entrepreneurship. No, none of that comes to mind. And in the third column, I'm writing a good human being. And I say, okay, just how do we know that someone is not an awful person? How do you know that someone is a good human being? And they start saying, they're kind, they're gentle, they're sharing, they care, they will help you, you can count on them, you can speak with them. And I'm like, okay, and I'm just writing everything down. And I say, okay, time after time, and the result is always the same, which is super sad. None of the words that are mentioned regarding what makes a man are even close to appear in the definition of what makes a good human being. Now, the definition of women does overlap to a certain extent, mainly through motherhood. Because when femininity is connected with motherhood, and motherhood is connected with sublime virtues of caring, of giving, of doing, of helping, so some of the words that define femininity or to be a woman does overlap the definition of a good human being. But the words kids say about being a man and about being a good human being, it's the total opposite. It has nothing in common. And I strongly believe that we should start educating boys and girls that a man, the definition of a man and the definition of a good human being are almost similar. Like what makes a man? You can count on him, you can trust him, you can talk to him, he will listen, he's not fighting, he's considerate, he's caring, he's loving. That's good. Okay, you can teach boys and girls that's what makes a man. All the virtues that are defining a good, decent human being. But nowadays, and whatever kids are saying, it's just a reflection of the world that we present to them, okay? It does not come from thin air. What kids are saying, especially when they're 9, 10, 11-year-old, it's like they are mirrorizing what we teach them. And I think it's super important. Now, that's the way young kids perceive masculinity and femininity. And then around the age of 9, 10, 11-year-old, porn appears on the set. So you have a 16-year-old kid. Maybe he's never been kissed, maybe he doesn't have a girlfriend, maybe he has zero sexual experience, which is okay. But he has like 4 or 5 years of consistent porn watching. Okay, so he would walk into a room, every 16-year-old boy can walk into this room and without even wanting, instantaneously classify each and every female into a suitable porn category. That's what we call pornucopia. You can do that in a second. Okay? Now when you want him to start developing relationships with romantic, sexual, with other boys or with other women or whatever you want to do, he needs to have the set of tools of communicating and seeing people as equal, but he doesn't possess that. So if he understands masculinity as power, and he's been watching porn, and all over the place all he sees like men in power positions, presidents, leaders, CEO, principal, whatever, he will become capable of harming women, of hurting them, of sexually harassing them. So we need to do that proactively. And I think that sexual education should start in a very young age, because people are not doing any sex education. When you say what's wrong, it's not enough. You need to say what's right and what works, okay? And you're not doing any sex education. If you're doing the informative stuff, no, it's nothing. It's not about information. It's not about how a sperm and an egg create a fetus. That's not sex education. But if you just give young kids the set of tools of seeing others as equals, and you teach them the basic gender equality stuff you need, and you do a lot of media literacy, okay? We need to do media literacy as well. Because censorship is the tool of patriarchy. We don't want to have patriarchy. We don't want to have some rosier, lighter version of patriarchy. We want to dismantle patriarchy. That's what we want to do.
Amen.
Amen to that, Thank you for that. And if we were fortunate enough to read what Audre Lorde was saying, that, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, we cannot keep doing the same thing and hope it will be okay. We need to do something else, something different. And I think it starts by teaching kids about what healthy intimacy, healthy sexuality looks like. And it has to be about equality. It has to be about joy, about laughter, about not self-centered, okay? It has to be about clitoral arousal and not about just, intercourse and male ejaculation and man domination of women. And I'll give you another example. I have a 4-year-old. I have a 10-month-old and a 4-year-old. And she's been starting to do play dates. And you don't have any control about who your kids like. And if your kid might like other kids that you dislike, and far worse than that, you're going to dislike their parents. And you have to sit in some, bizarre play date and converse with another parent that you're despising inside, but you need to be nice to them. They came over and I'm a Mediterranean. A play date never ends. When a kid is coming to our house, it means we're going to the park. But now when she's 4, I'm just sending her. They're sending the kids. We're not coming. You don't need to come over. We can, us parents, we can despise each other from afar. But they're taking the kids. But it means that I'm taking your kid from the kindergarten. We're going to the park. They're coming to our house. We're having dinner. We're having a bath. They're having a bath together. I'm giving you back a kid ready to. You don't need to do anything. They're gonna fall asleep at the car. Just put them. They're ready. Okay, just like a ready-made product. You're giving me your kid to play that. Boom. You're happy. Okay. You can go do Pilates or something with your afternoon. You can spend an afternoon with yourself. So, but my daughter became friends with this mean, vicious girl that I dislike, and it's a result of who her parents are. And like, my wife is texting me, you need to pick up Ayala. Ayala is the name of my 4-year-old. Ayala means fawn, like a female baby deer in Hebrew. So she's a fawn. And the pre-K teacher told her last week that she calls her, she looks like a young Shirley Temple. And the world, for some reason, still discriminates, white skinny bitches. The world still discriminates, blonde girls with blue eyes or people who look like me for no reason, but for some reason, it's like, I don't know why. It's like, if you're watching Grey's Anatomy, it's like, Dr. Bailey should have made boss or chief like the second season. And they gave all those McDreamies and McSteamies, the position. Like, it took like 13 seasons. And I wanted to stop watching the show like at the fourth. I'm like, I'm waiting for Dr. Bailey to make chief. I allowed myself to stop only when Dr. Bailey made chief. Okay? So the thing is, my kid, she looks like a young Shirley Temple with her curly blonde hair and big blue eyes. So they're like, and they're calling like 30-something kids in the kindergarten, and all the teachers are calling only her. Who's my beauty queen? Here comes the beauty queen. So I told her, you should answer, I'm Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. I'm a ninja. Just give some other kind of reply. So the pre-K teacher last week is telling her, who's my beauty queen? And she goes, I'm not your beauty queen. I'm the leader of the free world. Now she has no concept of what does it mean. I'm saying, sweetie, that's a lot of work. I'm not speaking about the current one, okay? The responsible adult of the free world now is a German woman. And I'm an Israeli Jew, and I'm saying that, okay? I spoke about it with Melissa yesterday. But basically speaking, normally, throughout history, it's a lot of work. You need to take care of people. You see that war won't happen, and it's a lot of, you need to wrap your mind around that. And I'm telling her teacher, listen, a 4-year-old does not know what a princess is. The same way she does not know what the leader of the free world or the CEO or the ninja or the hero or the warrior is. But words do create reality. We're building her up, okay? Hopefully, she'll be taking a place at the table without reading the book. She'll know what Sheryl Sandberg means when she writes that. But you need to bring them up at a very young age. And I want to give you this example because I'm picking her up. And her friend's mom is awful, and we live just take them to the park. Let them run outside, do something. But she's a lazy mom, so she just puts them in front of a screen, and they're watching Disney movies, okay? And I come, and my kid is watching the Little Mermaid. And I'm like, okay. So I'm going saying, sweetie, we need to speak about that. I haven't shown her your movie yet, but she's going to see it, but she's like we don't have screens back home. Only outside she can do whatever, so she won't be alienated, but you don't have a TV, so she's not. But she's watching. Outside you can do whatever, whatever they are doing. And I'm saying, sweetie, why is the Little Mermaid giving up her voice? Why is that? What's that about? And she says, she wants to be with her prince. She wants to be a human being. Now, I did 2 degrees, academic degrees in women and gender studies. So the vast majority of my friends are amazing lesbians back home in Tel Aviv. And I'm raising my child to, like, I'm not, there are no, I need a bit more. There are no paradigms. Like, you have all, the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. I strongly suggest, as your dad, that you will be, just refuse to go to the army on conscientious reasons. Okay, just don't do anything regarding occupation. Just don't occupy other people. Because occupation leads to foreign governing, and foreign governing leads to resistance, and resistance leads to violent oppression, and oppression leads to terror, and terror leads to counter-terror. This leads to, many years of casualty of innocent people dying. So just don't be a part of the occupation and try to be a lesbian. Some of us are okay, but if you want to live with somebody, just make an effort to be a bit more diverse. That is not interfering. That is not saying you anything. You can do whatever you want with your life. Just do minor things that don't go to military like I did, and try to be a lesbian. Really, just try to do that. And they're like all the heteronormative, narrative. Like she needs to want to be with the prince, and she's doing all the effort towards him, and he's not moving, and she has and say, okay, sweetie, so what is she giving up for love? She's giving up her body. She changes her. She gives up, being close to her dad and her family. She gives up her environment. She gives up her voice for the chance of being loved by the prince. I'm saying, sweetie, I don't think it's a good idea. Can't you understand that? And she can't really understand because, she's eating her snot half of the day. Like, she's not leader of the free world. I mean, come on. Boy, she's mediocre. I love her. She's mine, but it's my blood. But she's kind of mediocre, okay? So I'm saying, sweetie, daddy went overboard. Let's do it one more time. And she'll be 4 at the 27th of April. She's not even 4 yet. Saying, sweetie, let's think about it once again. You and I, we are like Ariel, the Little Mermaid, and we are giving up our voices. If we give up our voice, what can't we do? And she said, if we give, that every 4-year-old can answer that. If we give up our voice, we cannot say what we like and what we dislike. So, there you go. What else? We can't say if we don't like, if we want to go home, if we want to stop, or what we do want to do now because we. There you go. You should never give up your voice. You should never give up your voice. And if I want, and many years ago, and this, I'll just tie the thing. I'll close the circle, okay? Because I was drifting. I need to go back. So many years ago, I wanted to do this research, and to show that we are all potential prostitutes to some extent. And I started interviewing people of all sexual identities and all gender, but I was focusing on women, but not only. And I interviewed people, say, okay, people who live in a relationship that they define as positive and happy and rewarding. Not people that their marriage is crumbling, not people are like, people who define themselves as living in a happy marriage. But people who make less money than their companions, that they are basically dependent financially on their companion, okay? And whether they will pay alimony or not in case of, God forbid, like people who are not independent, like if tomorrow he leaves you and you don't need a dime from him, you can support yourself. No, I want people who are like many women who are dependent financially. Or gay men who are dependent on their gay partner, but someone who's dependent on the partner. But define the relationship as beautiful, as healthy, as positive. And I'm saying, okay, let's just say in a long-term relationship that sex did not occur for 3-4 weeks. Who's feeling the need to please? Who's feeling entitled of claiming something out loud or in a passive-aggressive way? Who's a bit afraid of being punished or silenced, or who might bring their body to perform sexually when they are not aroused and they are not interested? It's not authentic. When you bring your body to a place that your soul isn't at, you're demolishing your soul. Okay? So I just wanted to understand that. And we do know it's about pleasing. It's about being independent financially or not, about having the self-esteem that you need or not, about you need to hear your voice heard out loud on regular basis in order for it to come out of your throat, when the time matters, okay? And you won't be doing like, so you won't swallow whatever you want to say. So I think that, and that's even the last thing I'm going to say is like, when you ask kids or young people who they are not using condoms, but they know about HIVs and they know about pregnancy, say, why, sweetie, why did you sleep with this guy without a condom? You know that you don't need this pregnancy at such a young, you know that HIV is out there and other, infections. And they will always say, regardless of socioeconomic background, regardless of age, regardless of education or even income. Yeah, but there was a moment that I was I mentioned the condom, using contraceptive. He said no, he's not, he will pull out, it will be okay, he just got tested, he doesn't like that, it's taking the whole fun out of it. It's like, and I didn't want him to be like, I said okay, I went along with that. I'm saying, okay, so you gave up the control over your life. And I'm with you, sister, I'm not judging you, okay? The control over your health, the control over whether you have an abortion or not, unwanted pregnancy or not, a disease or not because you were uninformed, but because you didn't have the tools to not please somebody and let your voice be heard. So if I want to educate young girls to not, and I want to prevent, young unwanted pregnancies and STDs, I don't need to show charts of the human body. I don't need to make them be afraid because, to my humble opinion, abstinence and being afraid or demonizing sexuality, it's not a way of educating anything. They should understand that their sexuality is beautiful and sacred and fabulous and almost endless comparing to guys that are useless after. You can go on. That's so much. It's like another level of, that's amazing. So they need to know how to let their voice be heard. So if I'm teaching my girl when she's 4 years old not to let her voice be silent, not to give up her voice, I hope it will come in handy when she will be 14 or 15 or 16 with her girlfriend or boyfriend or both, depending on how much she drank. So when I'm teaching a young boy that the girls are equals and he should be good in listening and caring and attentive, and I let him play with dolls just as much as I'm buying him trucks and G.I. Joes, okay? Because when you see a young boy just pushing a young, like this, toy stroller and a doll, what comes to your mind? What do you think? The kid is what? Cute. He's gay. He's gonna be gay. So that's why parents don't let their kids, their boys, play with baby strollers and dolls. But the worst thing that can happen if you let your boy play also with dolls and kitchens, the most awful thing that can result, the outcome will be that he will be a good parent. He will be a highly functional parent. He will know how to change a diaper. He will be the kind of parent that at 6:30 a.m. will do the Anna and Elsa braids, without even opening his eyes. He will be a partner, okay? And he will be a gentle or attentive lover or see women as equals. But just saying how porn is awful and wrong and showing scientific data, that's the basis, okay? We need to have data, okay? Until Melissa didn't go all over the world and show that no matter where you're at, you have PTSD and people do not choose that. They came from incest, they came from being molested, they came from trauma. We did not know that people prostitutes in Vegas and prostitutes in Canada and prostitutes in Turkey or in Africa, the mechanism is the same. The core is the same. We need research. We need data. We need to be informed. Okay? Until Ching didn't do, the Mickey Mouse monopoly, I was not aware of how harmful the images or how Disney portrays minorities or women in general. We need people who come from the research. But when you want to be at the eye level and make all this beautiful data and science pragmatic, and when I meet a kid, they don't need to know the research of Ching or Melissa or read Catherine McKinnon text or anything. I need to know that and translate that into 3-4 basic hands-on tools. And we need to start at a very young age, and we need to teach equality. Does it make sense? I don't have any time. Did it make sense what I was trying to say here? Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much. Thank you.